Okay, this one is about a TXV power head. Now this is a power head off a Sporlan valve. It's actually an entire valve. Okay, next we're going to take a look at the rest of the valve. Okay, this shows the whole of the valve. Power head here, inlet here, outlet there, adjustment down here. This is an equalizing tube that goes to the outlet of the evaporator. This is a removable power head because you can see the hex head here, and of course it's adjustable. Not all valves are adjustable or can have their power heads removed. This one can, but that doesn't mean all of them are that way. Most of the newer ones that are used on air conditioners are non-adjustable, and that's not a bad thing. Once these things are set, they virtually never need to be adjusted. And if you're adjusting a valve because of a problem with the system, stop. It's probably not the problem. The valve either works or it doesn't work generally. Okay, here's another valve. This one's an Alco valve. I'm not even sure Alco makes this style anymore. Power head right there. Looking down in there shows where the power head diaphragm is, and the diaphragm moves up and down for the valve to adjust. Here is a cap covering an adjustment of the valve, and on the right hand side is the equalizing tube. This is not the whole valve. This is actually the actuator of the valve. You can see this head is not removable. This whole thing is replaced if you have a power head problem. Here's another valve. This one is non-adjustable. You can see there's your power head. It's an Alco valve. This one is off. Oh gosh, I think this thing's off a 3-ton. I don't remember for sure. And I wanted to kind of make some comparisons here in these power heads. Okay, here's that valve I showed you earlier, the Sporlan. And here is this non-adjustable valve. These are actually the same size. These are both 3-ton valves. And notice that this valve here has a much smaller diaphragm. That's mostly because it's cheaper to do it that way. For my money, the one on the left is by far a better valve. It is going to be more sensitive to temperature changes in the bulb. So if I had my druthers, I definitely want to use the one on the left. This is common because it's a very inexpensive valve. This one here, remember, this is non-adjustable. When this comes to you, it is going to have a certain superheat. That's it. Nothing else. You can't adjust it, which is not all bad. So I've called these power heads. That's actually what they are. There's a pressure inside them. There's a diaphragm in there. And the diaphragm moves back and forth with the pressure that's on, comes through this cap tube. Now let's take, this one's probably easiest to live with here. This one here, you've got this big diaphragm here, and there's a pressure on this side. Now on the other side, inside here, you're going to have the pressure that's in the evaporator, the low side pressure. And the way you're giving this the low side pressure is through this equalizing tube that fits on here. Now that's going to go down, and the equalizing tube will be mounted right next where the bulb is mounted on the suction line. So what's inside the bulb? Manufacturer says, if we told you, then we'd have to kill you. Just kidding, just kidding. Okay, what's actually in this bulb is probably, and there are bulbs that are different, there are valves that use different charges, they use cross charges, all sorts of weird stuff like that. But if the system's refrigerant's 22, that's probably what's inside here, at least for air conditioning. This is a saturated mix of liquid and gas. So all they do is they put a little bit of refrigerant in here, and they put it in through that little doohickey right there. and they charge it. Okay, as the temperature of this bulb changes, let's say it increases, the pressure here increases. And so that's going to move the valve. Remember, these things are superheat. That's all they depend on is superheat. And so the temperature of this bulb determines how much pressure is in here. With this little bugger, it's exactly the same thing. There's nothing different about it. But, and it's probably got the refrigerant in the bulb, but it's just a different design. Where do I mount this thing? Okay, this thing is mounted on the suction line. Right as it comes out of the evaporator, it should be mounted on the suction line. And I'll go into how these things are mounted, what placing they should have on the tubing, and so on in another video. Probably the next one I do on these things. So anyway, that is the power head of the TXV.